assume that there are going to be, out of 400, 500, 600 people that get released, that a handful of them are going to be embittered and still engaging in anti-U.S. activities and trying to link up potentially with their old organizations.
That was President Obama last year vowing to close Guantanamo Bay. The Pentagon reportedly planning a dozen more transfers from the facility to 2 countries. One, a former al-Qaeda fighter. He is from Yemen. He's been on a hunger strike since 2007. But there are 91 prisoners remaining, 15 of which are considered high level. So worth noting, nearly 20% of transfers return to fighting. That stat is verifiable as of July 2015. With me now, former CIA Senior Intelligence Officer, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Hey. Thank you, sir, for the time. So 91 prisoners left who will, we assume, be set free. How can the CIA counter what seems like a very bad decision at a very bad time?
Well, both DI and CIA both. I mean, this is a Pentagon effort. So I think what has to be done is accepting the reality which we face. Look, these are the most hardcore prisoners left. Those which were kind of recoverable, those who were kind of on the periphery of the 9/11 attacks and those incidents were released a long time ago. So these are the hardest of the hard, the most guilty, if you will. And my problem with the whole process...
Do you mind if I stop you there? Because I'm just curious. I am sure the president has reasons. It just doesn't make sense to most civilians in the sense that what is the trade? I mean, he has said it's because of bad optics. It inspires, for example, future generations of terrorists to hate us further. But it seems as if the terrorists are going to hate us either way.
There's no evidence that anybody going to Gitmo has been some reason for them to continue to do it. There's other things they use to recruit. Gitmo is not one of them. The president is completely naive or lying to the American people. Let me be clear on this. Elsewhere, within this context, we have no place to stick the current prisoners we're now taking. Peter Cook talked today, the spokesman of the Pentagon, talked about the fact that the high-value detainees we're now capturing in Iraq and Syria, we have no place for them. And I'm telling you, we need to retain these folks both by the fact that they've been involved in killing people and also for the intelligence value. And let me be very clear on this issue alone regarding killing people. These people have engaged in the 9/11 attack planning, and they were also engaged in killing Americans. If they did those acts of terror here in the United States, they would be facing life in prison.
But then they go home and they're heroes, I assume.
Exactly. They get released, they go back, and they are rock stars. Even if they don't go back on the battlefield, let me be clear, even if they don't go back and pick up a gun, they are inspirations to those who do wish to maintain terror links and conduct attacks against us. So it's a lose-lose for us. And we don't do what we stand for in our culture, which is bringing those who have violated international law to justice. They committed acts of terror. They've killed Americans. They should be held accountable for those crimes. And President Obama is just letting them off.
Yeah, it's worrying indeed. On that subject, a chilling report from a Harvard researcher that claims that terror groups such as ISIS are evolving and could get nuclear weapons very soon. What did you think of that report? How close are they?
I've actually worked on what we call red teams, where we look at this very issue. We've looked at this for the past 10 years regarding al-Qaeda. And let me say this, there's a handful of countries which have nuclear weapons, which they may be willing to deal with it. ISIS by itself does not have the technology or the time to develop what we call a pit, to basically put all the components together to build their own nuclear weapon. But they've said they will acquire one. They're the best funded terrorist organization ever. There's no reason to doubt them. Any threat they've made so far, they follow through on. This is another one. Loose nukes, they run between, I don't know, $600 to $800 million a copy. There's Russian sources, there's North Korean sources, and there's Pakistani sources. It's just a matter of time before someone figures out a way to buy one of these things, to get it loose, and put it in the hands of al-Qaeda. I'm sorry, ISIS. And so it's a matter of time, I think, and they're seriously pursuing it.
And the material, even, I'm not saying even encased in a bomb, there are nuclear materials
much easier.
out there.
Absolutely.
Retired Lieutenant Colonel, we thank you for your time. Tony Shaffer, glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Italian